Number one is there is no GPS for this journey. Friend, I am here to tell you, unfortunately, you are in uncharted territory. Are there examples and rough road maps we can go by? Absolutely. But you might have heard the phrase, if you've met one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And I would say that is pretty true for anybody with special needs. So I feel my daughter, her physical therapist has said to me, Finley just is on her own journey. The stuff that usually works for other kids with cerebral palsy does not work for Finley, and that's okay. We just have to figure out what is helpful for her. Now, I don't mean like you are completely on your own, you're completely in the dark. Of course, there are physical therapists and occupational therapists and speech therapists and doctors and neurologists, all of these people who have gone before us, who have studied, and there are avenues to go down, but it doesn't mean that what helped another child with special needs is going to help your child. And that has been a hard pill for me to swallow, and I think if somebody had told me at the get-go, then that would have helped me a whole lot. Let me pause and introduce myself. I am Heather Sweetman. I am here on YouTube to make the videos that I was searching for when I began our special needs journey almost 11 years ago. So we have 4 kids. Our youngest has severe cerebral palsy. She's in a wheelchair full-time and uses a talker to communicate. And we live in the city of Chicago. So welcome, and I hope you find this video helpful. So like I was saying, number one is there is no GPS for this journey. So I think going into this, maybe this is helpful. Maybe you've been on this journey for a while and you're like, okay, that's a good way to frame this. Maybe you're brand new. Maybe you just found out your diagnosis. Maybe you were like me and you are pregnant, wondering, and your doctor has given you some news that your child may be born with special needs. That was the case for us. So I believed that if I did everything that the therapists and doctors told me, that Finley would do specific things, sit up on her own, be able to walk on her own, or maybe walk with a walker or talk. And that just has not been the case. And not that I'm recommending not doing you definitely need to do what the doctors and therapists are recommending. But I would say that for me, the mindset was, if I do my part, Finley will get to do these things in the future. And that just wasn't the case for Finley. It is the case for some kiddos, but it wasn't the case for Finley, and it may not, it's just not a guarantee, right? So I think it's kind of the idea of like, okay, if I put in the hard work and work out, if I lift weights and if I am active, I will become stronger. That is, A plus B equals C, or 1 plus 2 equals 3. And in the special needs world, it is a different language, it is a different alphabet, the math doesn't add up. So my encouragement to you is, if you have a kiddo that ends up having a different path to what it seems like, other people with their diagnosis, what helps them, no matter what, celebrate what we call inch stones. Anytime there is just a fraction of growth, celebrate that. With 3 older kids, Finley's the baby, with 3 older kids, it was very apparent when they hit their milestones, and it was like Finley could just never hit those milestones. And so we began celebrating inch stones, and I don't remember where I found that phrase, but I didn't come up with it. Somebody else came up with it, and it's very helpful. So it took Finley 5 years to learn how to drink out of a straw. So she was drinking out of a bottle for the first 5 years of her life, and that felt like a failure on my part. I cannot tell you how many, I tried countless cups. Every sippy cup special needs cup that was on the market, we probably bought and tried over and over and over again. And she just, for whatever reason, couldn't do it. And something happened when she was about 5.5. She started drinking out of a straw. And we celebrated that so much. It was a huge relief. So that is one encouragement, is to find those inch stones that you can celebrate when the road ahead is unclear, and in some parts of that road you are going to be breaking up ground and pulling out stones and smoothing it out and laying pavement. Number 2 would be that community is essential. It is essential. I personally have found my community for this, not within the special needs world, but within our church. We have, and within our immediate family, we have been blessed with a community that will graciously listen to all of my woes and while I'm crying or if I'm angry or whatever, I have a small group of girls that will just listen and listen non-judgmentally. And I think that is part of finding your community in this. Is the hard truth of it is that you might have to set boundaries with people that you thought you would never have to set boundaries with, because there's certain things that people have lots of opinions about, and one of those things is how we raise our children and what we are doing with our children. And so, going back to the cup illustration and Finley being able to drink out of a straw, I had a mom who does not have any special needs kids. She said to me, well, why don't you just let her try? and she meant well. There's a term that we assign to these wonderful people, and it's called the unhelpful helpers. They're trying to give advice. They're trying to be helpful. The heart is in the right place, but it can come across hurtful. And so she was trying to help me, and there was a couple situations like that with her that I was like, she's not the person I'm gonna call when I am in dire need. And so there were some boundaries that I had to set up. So it's not just finding your people, it's also setting boundaries of like, you know what, I love you, but this relationship cannot be one that I'm looking towards for encouragement and support and, a safe place to process with. So if you are not a part of a church community, I would really encourage you to find a church that welcomes you with open arms. Sadly, there are not a lot of churches that have special needs programs, and I think part of that is because I learned this stat years ago that only 30% of Christians who have a special needs person in their family are able to go to church, because, as you know, if you're a special needs parent, it is a lot to get out of the house. And you have to get out of the house. You have to get your kiddo out of the house for school and for therapy and for doctor's appointments. And so if you have a Sunday where you don't have to, as good as it would be for your heart and soul, the easier option. And the child needs rest, right? A lot of kids with special needs have just challenges that make it difficult to be around large groups of people. So I get that if you're in that place, and I understand that. So, but if you can find personally, our church does not have a special needs program, but it does have people in it that love Finley, want to include her, are sensitive towards her. And so that you don't necessarily need a church with a special needs program, although that is helpful. So I would say find your community. If you can find a church, find a church. And there are special needs parenting groups. There's a lot of options online. So I would just say find some place where you can process, vent, grieve. And if it's online, if that's all that you can do that. Find your people there. That is what, I mean, the internet is a wonderful and awful place all at the same time. But connecting with, I think for people who are in difficult situations like this and your time is limited, that is one of the beautiful things, is you can find ways to connect. So excuse me for a moment. And then number 3 is, if you allow God to work through this, you will find purpose in the pain of all of the adjustments and all this requires of you being a special needs parent. Everyone responds differently to a diagnosis. So some people are not fazed by it. It's like, oh, this is hard. And then they just get on with it. And man, that's amazing. I was so not like that. Our special needs diagnosis really threw me. And then the lack of progress that I kind of mentioned in number 1, the lack of progress really got to me. It was like, surely she could drink out of a straw by the time she was 2. Surely she could drink out of a straw by the time she was 3. And you just keep trying and keep trying and keep trying. And there were lots of years and months and days that felt like, what is even the point? I think if you do have a kiddo like Finley, who really walks to the beat of her own drum in all ways, it can be very discouraging when you're like, I am doing all the things and nothing is changing. I mean, I heard a pastor say recently that he daydreams about having a lawn business, which I'm like, oh yeah, I get that. Like, I love painting. It's like anything where you can see where your hard work is paying off. You can see what you've done, and you can see where you've been, where you're going, and there's a payout. All of that reward system is just so great. And this would be true of just regular parenting. It is a marathon. Now, parenting a special needs child and advocating for them and doing all the home exercises and everything like that, I mean, that is above and beyond anything I have experienced as far as marathoning with neurotypical kids, for lack of a better word. Yeah, it is. What is the 3-day marathon called? If you know it, you can put it in the comments for me. But it's like longer than that. So, but what I know is true is that if you allow God to work, whether you believe in Him or not, I promise you will find purpose through the pain of all of this, through all of the trials, through all of the discouragement. You will come back, you will find it. And I mean, I know that is true in my own life. Not that it has not been a linear upward path of that. There has been a lot of valleys and a lot of mountaintops. And I just want to encourage you to, if you don't believe in God, what's the harm in asking Him to prove Himself, to show up? And if you do believe in God, then I would just encourage you to every day throw yourself on Him. It's in His grace and His strength that we have the honor of serving these incredible children. And there was one more thing I was going to say about that. Oh, if you're new here, my videos are unedited, so you get all of the weird pauses and brain lapses that YouTubers will edit out. But if you are interested in more of our personal journey, our personal story, you can I'm not actively blogging, but I went through about a 2-year period where I just blogged about our journey, and it's pretty raw, it's pretty vulnerable and open, so you can check that out at heathersweetman.com. I can link that below, and I can't remember what I was going to say. So thank you for being here. If you have made it this far in the video, thank you. And would you consider subscribing and liking? I think I'm 10 people away from 100 subscribers. So I would love to get to 100 subscribers. That would be amazing. And when you subscribe, it tells YouTube that this content is helpful and more people need to see it. So thank you for being here. I love you guys, and on this journey with you, you are doing great. God is with you. By the grace of God, we will make it bit by bit. All right, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.